Welcome, everybody, to Event Marketing Redefined. I am your host, Matt Kleinrock, CEO of Rockway Exhibits and Events. Thank you, as always. You're spending an hour with us in the middle of your day. We appreciate it, and we don't take it lightly. And today, really, really cool show, in my opinion, because I essentially think that user conferences, host events are such a popular topic. They are such a viable strategy in events. They're growing, they're being executed by more people. The nature of these events is, I would say, they are expanding versus contracting in the current environment. And we are here to talk to Bethany Murphy. She's the Senior Director of Events at 6 Sense. And I think she just executed a 1,000-person user conference. It's giving me a headache thinking about what that was like to get it there. It's a big event. But we are going to try to dive into this event. We're going to try to break it out into segments and get as much information out of it as we can, and then dive into those topics, things like budgets, things like user experience, things like ROI, goals, anything we can. Bethany, welcome. It has been a pleasure getting to know you and glad to have you on the show today.
Thank you. Super excited to be here.
So let's get rock and rolling. So first thing, I touched a little bit on user events, host events, conferences, whatever you want to call them. I'll give you my just quick take on the importance of these, whether you're running them or whether you're not running them, and kind of what I see from my vantage point in the industry. And it's pretty simple. I think why they've taken off is because A, they give a company control, right? There is no third party running an event that you're dependent on. You're able to collect and manage your own data in its entirety. I think that education for companies that would throw a host event or user conference, education equals growth with their customers, right? And all companies are looking for growth. It has to be an incredible feedback loop. Having all of your customers and people there for 3-4 days, whether it is a quantitative feedback via survey or qualitative feedback, just being there and interacting and talking with people. And, I find that at times to be just the absolute best feedback. And then the last is community. Can you create sense of community through being together for 3-4 days, 2 days, whatever it may be? Finding those bonds, those industry, whether it's the vertical that you're in, what you sell, provide, just that nature for Bethany and them, it is sales and marketing with their software. So that's just my overview to kick us off. But Bethany, start us with, we're going to do a little bit of a case study, right? And a lot of people are starting to run their own user conferences, events. They may be 100 people. They may be 1,000 people like yours. What we're going to try to do here today is people who are stuck, people that need advice, people that are running the same one to you. They just maybe want to hear from you as peer-to-peer of like what you did that was good and triggers an idea for them, right? So we're going to talk a little bit about Bethany, her company, why they run the event, the overview per se. We're going to go into the uniqueness, budget management, planning and thought process, timelines, goals, ROI. So we'll try to frame this out for you all. So Bethany, give us a little bit of overview into what 6 Sense and you call breakthrough.
Sure. So hi, everyone. Super excited to be here. I head up events for 6 Sense. We are a tech company headquartered in San Francisco. I'm here in Boston. We have about 1,200 employees globally. And as Matt said, we just hosted our largest user conference to date in October. It's called Breakthrough. So we were at the brand new Omni PGA Frisco Hotel in lovely Frisco, Texas, outside of Dallas. It was really cool because we had a complete buyout of the property. And we also had overflow hotels, which was a lot of fun with transportation and all that stuff. But basically, we brought 1,000 sales and marketing professionals together for 3 days of networking, amazing content, and really unique evening events, which we'll talk about a little bit later.
Very cool. So let's talk about the uniqueness of this event, right? Let's talk a little bit about 6 Sense, I guess why you put the event on, what it means to you, and essentially kind of the purpose and, we'll say uniqueness of the event.
Yeah. So, I've been in events for 20 years. I've been at a lot of tech companies. I would say at 6 Sense, we take our events really, really seriously. Events are one of the main avenues for us to bring the brand to life. And they also have a huge impact on the business, which we'll talk about as well. But, we take into consideration that we're planning a B2B conference that really is competing with a lot of other B2B conferences. And therefore, it's really all about the experience. 6 Sense is unique in that we have a lot of like what I call fanboys and girls, a lot of people that are really obsessed with the brand. And so it's a really tall order for me and my team to continue year after year to exceed expectations. And especially with inflation, which is really, a real thing these days. But how do we create these memorable experiences through our event? And this year, given we are in Texas, we kind of really leaned into that location, the destination, and created like amazing kind of themed evening events with local entertainment, local touches, like think cowboy hats, a lot of cowboy hats. Swag is a huge thing for us at our event. I think this event, like every time I put out swag on a shelf, it was gone before I could even finish putting it out. And really, we try to bring in activations throughout the event. So this year we had a headshot station, which had a line like the entire time, 3D photo booths, really like local, unique entertainment, and even a drone show. So I would say like it's really all about the experience for us. And of course, the content, which we'll talk about. But, how do we make our events stand out and be memorable for our attendees?
So I think just a note on something that you kind of got at there that I think is super important for people when you're planning a user conference, summit, right, host event, whatever it is the why, the purpose, right? What you all are doing at Six Sense with this event, it's very purposeful, right? You have an idea as to why you are doing it, and you know that because it's purposeful, it creates impact down the line, right? So you're not just throwing an event just to throw an event. So I think that's important. Number one is like get your stakeholders, and if you're considering, if someone's like, hey, let's have a host event, let's throw a user conference, say, okay, why? Right? And get your stakeholders to have that conversation and map what your why is and your purpose, then try to tie that to some say like, okay, that sounds great, but what would the impact that we're going to make? Why does it matter to the business? Because at the end of the day, you will have that business case to present to executives and to your stakeholders. The second thing that I love you said was kind of like that theme. This is something I've heard from others, which is like making a play on the city, the location, the vibe is such a, it's so simple to do. And it works so well because people are traveling in to somewhere that's different where they're from. And why not buy in and play into that in your own event?
Yeah. And you can do it like really inexpensively too, right? Like we did bandanas, they were like 50 cents a piece, right? It doesn't have to be like something really expensive, but it is kind of cool to bring in that local flair.
Love a good bandana, if I'm being honest, like depending on the setting
Teal,
and
of
what I'm
course,
doing.
because everything we do is teal. So lots of teal.
Very cool. All right. We got a question. So I like to get to them so that it encourages people to ask them. So Marcella has a question. Marcella, thanks for asking questions. It's 3. How big is your team? How do you track your success? Marcella, we're going to get to that. So I'm not going to let Bethany answer it. And then the third one was, are your events international or domestic only? So how big is your team, and are you international and domestic only?
Yes. So my team, we're a mighty 3. So we're a really small team.
Man.
But we'll talk about kind of later on, like I would say breakthrough for Six Sense is like a true cross-functional effort, right? It is it is like almost all of marketing, it is sales, it's customer success. So sure, my team is doing the logistics, but it is like a major effort across the entire company.
So
And
as
we use
much as I want to
outside
get,
vendor, right? We have a production vendor, like we have outside vendors that we use as well. Our events international. Breakthrough is US only. We do a smaller kind of one-day version that we call Inspire in the UK, and that will be coming up in June.
awesome. Marcel, thanks for the question. Bethany, I want to get to the next piece of your event, which is talking about the content, right? But what I also want to get to is something that you just touched on, because I think it's so, from talking to a lot of event marketers, from trade shows to activations to user, all that whole space. What I find interesting is what you just touched on, which is you are mentioning and kind of throwing credit to sales, to marketing, to the, I'm not talking about external partners, I'm talking about internal partners inside of your business. Can you talk a little bit about that? Pulling off 1,000-person user conference. Can you just talk a little bit about that? Like, how do you work with sales? How do you work with marketing? How do you work with the executive team? Like, what do they do? How do you interact to make it a success?
Yeah, I'll start with marketing because I think marketing has like the kind of biggest role in the event. So we basically create what we call our core breakthrough team, and we basically have people from all over marketing on that team. So we have product marketing, we have customer marketing, we have design, we have our ABX team, which events fall under, and we really spend a lot of time with this core group in advance of the event, just making sure that everyone is aligned and bought in. And then we work really closely with sales and customer success to drive attendance to this event, right? Like we couldn't do it on our own. Like sending Marketo emails isn't going to get us to 1,000 attendees. So we create kind of gain site templates, sales loft templates, send those cross-functionally. And we'll talk about this a little bit later, but a huge goal and metric for success for this event is meetings. And so we spend a lot of time on enablement and driving meeting booking in advance of our event. So we rely really heavily on customer success for that, given they have these super close relationships with the customers. And this is a 95% customer event, right? We do have some key prospects. And so sales is, of course, involved as well in driving kind of key prospects to the event. And we'll talk about this later too, but I think you touched on it too, Matt. Like to do an event like this, you really need executive buy-in. Like this cannot be like solely a marketing thing and marketing's bought in on it. It requires finance, a lot of teams cross-functionally. And so I would say if you're embarking or going to embark on this, like make sure you have buy-in across the board before you get started, because it'll make your life a lot easier.
Yeah, I mean, I think with what you said, Bethany, like what I like about that too is we're talking about making a case to executives. We're talking about stakeholder alignment, creating impact in the business. People tend to get lost in the event and how cool it is and all these things. But at the end of the day, what I love about some of the things you're saying is that you're kind of getting everybody involved. And what you're saying is like, say, hey, this is why we're doing it. This is the impact it could have. I need you just as much as you need me. We all need each other to go execute this, and everybody will benefit from this. So then when you get to the other side of these events, you don't have people whispering around like, that breakthrough, what are we doing? What are we, that event, why are we, because they can't say that because they were involved. So if you have a person, you're like, well, you didn't book any meetings. Why? Right? Or you didn't, and everyone's kind of contributing.
We call out people. We're like, you've booked 0 meetings.
I love it. I love it.
We do
yes. That's so good. All right. Content. And we got 2 questions. We'll get into those. So content, tell us about the content at your event. Obviously content is super important at events. People come for the content. So give us a little dive into that, please.
Yeah. Obviously it can't just be all fun, right? People come for content. Content's a huge component of the event. I'm super lucky in that I have a great partner in our head of customer marketing, and she really drives all of our breakout session content, which is basically customers. So it's customer case studies. We find that that's been a huge success. People want to hear from other customers how they're using 6 Sense and how they're having success with the product. And again, like this event is a customer primarily a customer event. We want customers to come, learn best practices, share tips, learn more about the platform at the end of the day, make them more successful in their roles. And like you said, Matt, and hopefully, right, buy more 6 Sense, right? Expand within our products. This year we had over 2.5 days, we had 50 breakouts, 12 keynotes, over 75 speakers. And, I think part of our content development process is we're really lucky that we can use our own platform. So we can use 6 Sense data and we can pull topics of interest that customers and prospects are looking for. And we can use that data to inform our session topics as well. So that's certainly a help within the planning process. But I would say we're already literally starting to plan content for 2024. We're getting all these questions. Are there going to be certifications? Are there going to be workshops? And we're like, I don't know. We're not there yet, but we got to start. It's a big process for sure. And, I think part of it is what is the right mix of sessions? Like we continue to kind of play around with our agenda, right? Like what's the proportion of breakouts to keynotes? Is it too many? Do we have enough hands-on sessions? It's kind of a work in progress. And we take our attendee feedback really seriously as well. So we'll look at that year after year and try to make adjustments accordingly.
I think that feedback loop is huge, right? And it's listening to the audience, right? Because, when you have the demand, it's easier to supply, right? So you have people wanting to come to the event, wanting to learn. So that feedback loop allows you to make adjustments year over year. I kind of always, when I'm telling people about taking chances and doing things differently at their events and trade shows, is you're going to miss sometimes, right? But if you have qualitative and quantitative, and just know, I am such a firm believer that qualitative and quantitative data are different, but both valuable, right? You send your surveys, you get that quantitative back. You see how many people select A, B, C, D, all that is excellent. But you have to get the feel, the boots on the ground, the conversations in the moment when you're at that event. That is what I mean by qualitative data. And I think it's equally just as important to take those and make adjustments to make an event better. 2 questions, Bethany. You are super popular. This is great. Hi, Bethany. You mentioned activations at the event. Can you give some more insight into these? Also, were there product demo areas or expo area? And this is from Peter. Peter, thanks for the question.
Peter, my friend Peter. Yes. So activations I use kind of loosely, but yes, we do not have a traditional expo floor. So we sell sponsorships, we have booths, not huge ones, but we really make an effort to have our sponsors included in the event and not separate them in an expo hall. So we basically have this year we had a huge foyer outside of our general session space. And we had all our sponsors in the foyer, along with some other fun activations, which I'll talk about. And all our food and beverage was in that foyer. So, like, you wanted coffee, you had to go see the sponsors, right? And that we find really drives traffic and makes our sponsors happy. So that's a win. So we do have that expo hall. This year we had an awards wall. So we had, I think, 8 award categories throughout the event that we solicit nominations in advance, and it's this huge thing, and we bring the winners up on stage. And we had a big wall activation where we had kind of a winner sticker that would go on next to the company after they were presented the award. And we would have our winners take pictures, and it became a big kind of social awareness play for us after, because these companies were really excited to win an award. They would post, and it would bring some awareness to break through, which is great. We had what we called a Be More wall. So the theme of the event was, how can we all be more? Instead of like do more with less, right? It's like, how can we be more? And so we had a big wall where people could write like what makes them be more. And that was really popular. We had a headshot station. We had at our welcome reception, we had this really big cowboy hat kind of wall that served also as a photo op. And then our big kind of blowout evening event was a festival theme. We called it Corporate Coachella, but we had like hair and makeup glitter and airbrush tattoos and all food trucks and all these kind of fun activations throughout. So again, just like ways to make people kind of excited and participate throughout the event.
Good stuff there. Those are a couple really good nuggets. One I want to talk about, but Christina, your question, we're going to get right into that next. We got a question from Jim. Jim, is good to have you here, buddy. My group is looking to attend and sponsor some upcoming legal conferences in 2024 for the purpose of generating strategic partnerships. Any insight, experience in something like this?
So I work closely, I guess another team I didn't really mention is our partner team. So we're lucky in that we have a strategic partner team here at 6 Sense. We work really closely with them on who we're going to reach out to potentially sponsor our event. And so I know like from them basically who's in our ecosystem and who we can target. And we sponsor a lot of our events, they sponsor our events. And so that's like a big driver for us, but I don't really have any legal expertise on that one. But I would say leverage your kind of network, and look around. Like, they're great. I don't know, again, legal is pretty specific, but there's so much information on the web of like events for certain industries, right? And so I think that's a good place to start.
Yeah, Jim, I think on that question, I'm always a big component of, if you're going to attend and you're looking for partnerships, right? You're at that event. I think preparation is key. A lot of people just go to events. They go without a plan, right? So you need to be getting as much data as you can, as who is going to be there, who is exhibiting, who is the host, who are the sponsors. You need as much as you can get. And then it's working with the team around you to understand, well, is there anybody there specifically that we absolutely have to meet, right? That we absolutely have to sit with. So can you arrange your own offsite meet and greet that you become the host of at that and invite 6 people? Can you make a connection with a keynote speaker, involve them offsite to bring a little bit of juice to what you're doing? But I think it's all about being prepared, all about knowing who you want to talk to versus just going just to go and kind of seeing what happens. When you're prepared, good things, the ball kind of bounces your way. Bethany, one thing I wanted to say about what you said, that activation you ran about Be More, right? What I find really interesting about that is the point earlier talking about community, right? And I think people that are involved in communities, that are involved in the same industry or have the same objectives like sales, marketing, whether it's engineering or certain types of people. I think what a lot of people seek when they go to events and they're involved in communities or products, services that they utilize is the feeling of belonging, right? And there's certain things that you can do when you run your event to make your attendees feel like they belong at that event. They feel like they belong, maybe not to Six Sense, but in this community. And Six Sense happens to be the cool kid hosting the party because their parents go out of town all the time, right? Like you want to be that person. So that sense of belonging is something I'd urge to people. Can you create that at your events? People want to feel like they belong to something.
Yeah. And I should have mentioned, sorry, super quick. So we do have an amazing community and we call it Rev City. So we did a huge play on Rev City at our user conference to try to kind of bring it to life. So the meeting space was full of windows. So we did all these window clings and we have a mascot we call Revy. So we had a little Rev City booth.
I love
And in
that.
order to get a little Revy plushie, a little like stuffed animal plushie, you had to log into the community and complete your profile. Right. And so it was a way to just further kind of drive engagement and participation in the community. So certainly super important to us as well as continuing to grow our community.
All right, Bethany, let's go to the fun stuff. ROI, business impact. Tell us how this affects the business. Tell us what your CEO and your CFO and your CMO, what they all want to know.
Yeah. So like I said before, I mean, events are a huge line item for the budget, right? And so in order to justify the spend, we need to prove ROI from the events. So, these goals that we set and work toward are really important on getting executive buy-in. And we need to do everything we can involving a lot of people to make sure we can hit these goals. And so what I would say is our kind of standard across the board goal is 10x ROI on sourced pipeline. That is reasonable for a trade show that has a lot of net new people, right? That's really hard for an event that's 95% customers because the ACV of a new deal is significantly higher than an upsell. So this event, in order to set ourselves up for success, we look really carefully at attendee breakdown from past years. We kind of monitor along the way accounts that have registered. We look at their average deal size, and we're able to determine realistic pipeline goals based on those attendees and historical conversion rates. So what I would say is like, don't just set a goal without any sort of data to back it up because you're very likely not going to be successful if you do that. And I talked about again earlier, a huge metric for success for us at this event is meetings, because we find that like the more meetings we drive, the more conversations that we have. First of all, we do make people feel part of that Six Sense community, right? You're meeting with your salesperson or your CS rep, you're having those conversations, and we want to drive upsell and we want to drive cross-sell, right? And so this year we had a goal of 500 meetings going into the event, which basically we aim for, I would say, one meeting per account that's attending the event. And we exceeded that goal. We had 539 meetings held at Breakthrough. So, I mean, again, huge cross-functional effort, sales, CS, marketing, and there's so much teamwork and enablement that goes into making that happen pre-event and the time to host those meetings over the course of 2.5 days. Like it's a massive, massive effort. So, influence pipeline, I would say, is also a huge metric for us. And we'll talk about that a little bit later, but that's really exciting for me to watch because that number is really super significant. So I would just say, like, make sure you're kind of backing up your goals and you're tracking them. And again, you're proving success of the event so that you continue to get funding year over year.
Bethany, Marcella is asking a question. She just wants to know because it's right on with what you're saying. How do you track the meetings when you're
Yes, good
counting the
question.
meetings
I
and
told
such? Yeah.
myself to mention that and I forgot. We
That's
use
why
a tool.
Marcella's here.
We use a
She's got
tool
you
called
covered.
Jiffle Now. So this is our first year using Jiffle Now, and I will say, like, we used to track meetings in spreadsheets and it was an absolute disaster. This software has really helped us streamline that process. It has taken time to enable the team on how to use it, I would say. And we have office hours and we do a lot of training on Jiffle Now, but it has definitely streamlined our meetings process. We use it for a lot of other events that we sponsor as well, where we're kind of driving toward meetings as part of our goal.
Nice. How did you know this event was successful, right? So you kind of gave us a glimpse into what the business objectives, goals are, like the impact you're trying to create. I think everything that you said there makes complete sense. And I love the differentiation that you're making between new sales and current customers and what that conference looks like, right? So give us a little bit of idea. How did you know this was successful? What are some of the things that you saw or that goes on in your organization post event?
Yeah. I mean, I think for me, like the last night of the event, again, it was this huge Coachella party. And I just looked around and like watched everyone watch this surprise drone show that was happening. And that's when it kind of hit me like, wow, this is an event that really has impact, both personally and professionally on people, right? Hopefully they came, they learned, they're like more of a fanboy or girl of Sixth Sense. But above all, we aim to create experiences so that people want to come back year over year. So I think that's like a huge measure of success, although it's not measurable per se. And then the again the sourced and influenced pipeline, like that's how we judge true success of the event. And we have dashboards in Salesforce. We have this what we call Winwire in Slack. And so just watching that kind of Winwire Slack channel light up with upsells, like as a direct result of the event, like they'd be like, shout out to Breakthrough, like this is why we got this deal, right? And that kind of makes it all worthwhile. And we're still today, I mean, we're only less than 2 months post-event. We continue to watch and track our source and influence pipeline and watch those numbers continue to grow. So
I
yeah.
really like the win wire of all that there because I think obviously you have to track sales and there's some certain things that just have to happen. But that idea that win wire, that's a Slack channel that's throughout the company, and you're seeing the success unfold as it comes, I think is something one of the better usages of like momentum creation inside of a company that I've heard from an event because I think ROI, return on experience, and what's going on in events, it's tricky. It's not as simple as spending $20,000 a month on Google Ads and then tracking that back to a landing page and knowing when that converts. Even that is not 100% accurate, right? Because you have people that Google search you organically because they listen to you on a podcast, but then they click on your ad because they're hitting the sponsor button. I go on all day about that, but events is just tricky. There's so many layers to what happens, but creating that momentum inside the organization and people seeing this came on the back of it. So maybe it was a person, for a trade show or another event that they're in your pipeline, but they haven't bought yet. But then they were just at your booth or just at your event, but now they bought. You expedited that process. I mean, 100% events expedite pipeline. So I think having something like that Winwire, really, really cool. I think
Yeah.
that's awesome.
And it also, I feel like facilitates buy-in across like the sales and CS
Yep.
orders, right? Like people that were like,
Yeah.
why should I get my customer to go to Breakthrough? Like they see these deals coming in and they're like, oh, that's why, right? Like that's why I should prioritize getting my customers and my accounts to this event. So I think it's a win-win.
Nice. I have a question. We have a bunch of questions here. Question from Christina. Christina, thanks for the question. I see you charge a ticket price for attendees. How many attendees actually pay? Do you assign a price to assign value, but really end up comping for all your customers? And then the second piece of that is, was there any pushback on the costs to the customers?
Oh, Christina, this hurts to talk about. Yes, we have a cost for the tickets. I am really adamant that our ticket price, which kind of ranges, but let's just say 12.50 is kind of our early bird ticket price. We give people a lot for that 12.50, right? Like 3 amazing evening events, food and drinks throughout 3 days, specialty coffee bars. We had 6 specialty coffee bars with lattes
Mm.
all day, every day. Swag all day, every day, right? Like we're giving people a lot for 12.50. That said, we historically, so starting I think in 2019, and then we didn't have the event in 2020, and then 21, 22. We actually, which I feel like is unheard of, I was not at Sixth Sense at the time. We included hotel in ticket price. And I would highly suggest you do not do this because this set a terrible precedent for us. It just set a terrible precedent for us. Like what conference do you go to that includes hotel in your ticket price? Like we were barely covering ticket price. We were barely covering hotel with the ticket price. So this year, I started like a year and a half ago. I was like, we're absolutely not including hotels for 2023 Breakthrough. I have revenue goals, right? This is crazy town. We're not doing this. It was hard. I will say it was hard, right? So we basically, again, we created kind of tiered pricing. We had early bird, we had regular, we had customer, we had non-customer. We discounted. We did like a 1 day kind of sale, right? So I think it was August 16th, and we did tickets for $816 on 8/16. We sold more tickets in 1 day than we sold in like the month prior. We also to kind of appease sales and CS, we basically created an allotment per segment. So we said like commercial, enterprise, strategic, you each get 20 comp tickets, put in a request. We kind of track them in a spreadsheet. We would have to approve the request based on like the deal size and determine whether or not we wanted to comp these tickets. At the end of the day, like we still made a lot of revenue. Was it where I would have liked it to be from ticket sales? No, but I think this was kind of our first year in that like hotel not included and ticket price. So I'm hoping next year it goes a little better. We did just launch pre-sale tickets for Breakthrough 2024 this week. So, and we're discounting them 50%. So it's basically like the idea is if you have money left over and you're trying to burn budget by the end of the year, get a ticket for $1,000. Eventually ticket prices will go up to $2,000 if you wait. So we're hoping to drive some engagement there, but it's a strategy, right? It's hard. And I think we're trying to appease like we're trying to appease a lot of people while still, getting the revenue that we need. So it's
really, no, it's a good question. No, I mean, look, that's what we're here for, right? We're here to have these discussions inside this room, this virtual room here, so people can ask cool stuff. And it's great. Another really good question here. It's from Pia. It's, does your company support an attribution model where the event gets a certain percentage of a new opportunity to get company buy-in? We are always facing the challenge of being asked to do more, greater experience with less.
Where the event gets a certain percentage of new opportunity.
Yes, I'm not sure exactly, Pia, what you mean by that, but I think I understand the nature of the question, saying, being asked to do more with less, essentially. But where does the budget sort of get pieced into that, right? Like, how are you getting less budget? Where is that coming from? And then, greater experience. If you could clarify in the chat at all, that would be helpful. But, we could definitely talk on trying to do more with less. For sure. That I think everybody in this room can talk about.
Yes, certainly. Yeah, any clarification on that would be great. I mean, I will say we're moving to a slightly different model next year with comp tickets, in that we track it now in a way that finance isn't super excited about. So what we're doing next year is saying, okay, sales and CS, if you want X number of comp tickets, you need to give us that money. So you need to allocate 75K or whatever it is that you want based on how many tickets you think you need. And we will take that toward our event budget to help offset these comp tickets. So it's kind of another way to get them what they want, but while still kind of giving us the money that we need. I don't know if that's helpful.
And I would say, Pia, to your question about the doing more with less, is essentially like, I'm just such a believer in, if you have to do more with less, then I think it goes back to who your audience is and what they want. Don't burn money on things that they don't want. So it's getting further in touch with them. What experience are they looking for? What worked? What didn't? I would say heavy in negotiation. I mean, negotiation is such a big piece of this whole thing that event marketers really have to be great at. You have to negotiate with the event. I mean, whatever. There's a lot of people to negotiate with.
There's a long section on budgets later, and I could talk budgets all day. So if you want to talk budgets, I'm happy to sidebar on that one.
All right, let's keep moving. We have a lot. There's no way we're going to get to this whole thing.
No, we're not.
We're going to, yeah, I was just thinking that this is impossible, but this might give us enough to do a part 2 at some point. All right. So let's skip over to this next piece that we're going to do, which is essentially running a user conference, right? There is so many moving pieces. How do you, when you're planning 1,000-person user conference, when something goes wrong, right? I mean, there's tons of things that happen. I mean, what do you do? How do you react? What are some tips, advice? What do you recommend?
Yeah. I mean, I think, look, as planners, like, we're taught to expect the unexpected and try to plan for it, which is really difficult. So I guess my high level advice is like, plan as well as you possibly can, and then have a backup plan for that plan, right? Like, weather is a great example. Also, like, hotel, if I could control like the temperature of a hotel ballroom, I'd be the best planner on the planet.
You'd be a genie.
Yeah, exactly.
You'd be a genie.
Weather is something that like you always have to plan a backup for, right? I've done events for 20 years. I go to places like Arizona. Everyone's like, my DMC, everyone's like, it never rains in Arizona. I'm like, I bring the rain. It will rain. Right. We must have like, and so I'm always thinking about like, tenting and heaters and all these things that like I needed heaters in Arizona. Like who would have thought, right? So do the best you can to kind of think about everything that could possibly happen and, try to plan accordingly. You just expect the worst and try to plan for the best. But it's hard. Things will always go wrong. And I think grace under pressure, right? Like us planners have to just kind of be cool and chill when we're on site, like be
Yeah.
super crazy before, but once you're there, it's like you just have to kind of do anything you possibly can to keep the train moving and make sure if something does go wrong, we're the only ones that know, right? That the attendees kind of don't see it. So
Yeah,
that's
I think in the chat, so Casey said, hope for the best, plan for the worst, right? And I think, unfortunately, with what we do in events, whether you are event marketer, event planner, a producer, a fabricator, whatever it may be, right? It's kind of Murphy's Law with what we do. And I think it's something that people that are not in the industry, they do not understand it. It truly is Murphy's Law. Our director of account management here at Rockway, like she is such a proponent of this. Like she's always pushing it because she did do events. She did do the job. She did plan them. So she's always talking about like, well, everything seems great, but like the details matter. Every little detail of what could go wrong, why it would go wrong. Did you look behind that door? Did you check under the bed type thing? Like you got to be looking at everything because it's eventually how you catch and prepare so that when you're there, you're ready.
Yeah. And I would say to that point, like I try with my team to kind of run through like the attendee experience from start to finish and just kind of talk through, right? Okay, they walk in the venue, they go to register, just like be in the shoes of an attendee and try to think about all the things that could kind of happen throughout the event. And that can help as well.
So let's talk about creativity in planning in the planning process, right? So I think so much goes in, people, when they say about planning, they think logistics, but also with planning comes creativity, comes what you're saying, attendee experience, and getting creative in your planning process. How do you do that? Where do you come up with ideas, themes, activations, experience? What does your process look like? How do you make your conference memorable, meaningful?
Yeah, I mean, I think again, like a really good starting point is to kind of lean into the location, right? That gives you like an easy way to kind of create an experience. And people are traveling to this event, right? They want to experience the location. I'll give a quick example. I did a site visit a couple years ago at a hotel in Mexico, and it was like it was an Asian brand. And I felt like I was in Asia. I was like eating Thai food. And I'm like, but I want to eat Mexican. Like I'm in Mexico, right? So like I want to feel like I'm in the destination. So again, we were in Frisco, Texas. We really like leaned in to the destination. So our welcome reception, we basically created themes for each event. They were all like Western-ish. And then we created a lookbook that we sent out in our Know Before You Go email with like visual outfit inspiration and attire for each evening event. So I think I mentioned before, like our big party was corporate Coachella themed, and people like went all in. Like people really leaned in to the themes. Like they put on those bandanas and the cowboy hats and did their hair glitter and like really leaned into it. And so I think, how do you find unique ways to like make events memorable? That's really important. There's so many events out there and there's so many, I mean, customers of Sixth Sense have a lot of other tech companies that they're, in their portfolio, right? In their tech stack. So why are they going to come to our conference over another? And so a lot of that is, it's relationships, it's brand affinity, but like it's experience. And so I think find those ways to bring those unique experiences. And again, it doesn't have to be super expensive, right? It can be like little kind of inexpensive touches throughout, but just try to make it memorable.
Amy in the chat said, I love it. She said, we're in Houston. We don't wear as many cowboy hats as you think. I'm sure you don't, Amy.
I
but
know.
we
I'd
have,
like to think
she
that
said,
everyone in Texas is always wearing cowboy.
yes. She says, but we have an optional NASA tour planned and we sell to the aviation community and we'll host dinner at a flight museum. Yeah. I mean, that's awesome. It's Bethany and I were talking about this earlier. It's easy pickings and it's so good. Like if you go somewhere, to her point, as an attendee, she's going to Mexico. So like when you go to Mexico, you're going to pack your bag a certain way, whether it's for work or not. You're going to dress a certain way. You're going to want certain things, so leaning into that, I think super smart, easy to do. And I think because it's easy, it allows you to get creative from it and do so many cool things. Bethany, let's keep this moving. Behind the scenes, this is the one I think good piece here. So I'll burn our last 13 minutes, hopefully, on it here. Budget management, right? Huge event. I'm sure the event cost you guys a small fortune, right? A lot of money to manage.
All those
A lot
questions
of,
in the chat about budget. I'm not sure I want to get
yeah, yeah, haven't gotten there yet. Just debating on that. I do
I
appreciate the
know.
question.
I do too.
Um, yeah. So my thing on budget is like essentially for someone that does your job. I mean, is there's pressure there. There's a responsibility there. So as much as it can be a running joke in events about budgets, it really is important to be dialed in. It's important to understand where to disperse it. It's important to understand past years. So how do you do it? How do you manage the budget for your event? What do you think's important? You know, how do you manage it?
So I mentioned this earlier. I love budgets. I could talk about budgets all day. Budget management is like one of my favorite parts of event planning, which I know is super bizarre. I just get like real satisfaction from tracking and managing and reconciling. Like I just love it. And to your point, like it is a huge part of my role. I mean, I spend a lot of my time, like not just on breakthrough budget, but on budget. I mean, I'm in my budgets all day, every day. And so I kind of thought about like a few key components that help me to manage budgets. Number one, keep your budget up to date in real time. Like again, I'm in my budget every day. I'm constantly shifting money from one bucket to the other as I get estimates. I'm inputting numbers. Like it is a real time working document for me. And I always reference it and use it for months and months. Have a buffer. This is like a huge one. And I may be like overly crazy about this one, but I would say depending on size of the budget, I like to keep like I would say 5 to 10% of my budget in my back pocket for emergencies, things that come up, overages, and consumption, right? Like consumption is one of those like you just never know how much people are going to drink, right? The last evening at our Coachella event was like quite a party. And I think we served like 7,000 drinks for 1,000 people in one night. So it was a really good thing that I had like a consumption buffer it built in.
What was everybody drinking?
A lot of everything. I
Amazing.
went through the
Wow.
bill and I was like, tequila. I mean, it was crazy. I counted 7,000 cocktails. It was a lot.
Can I get a breakthrough ticket? What does that look like? Can I get a
Everyone come to Breakthrough. It's a good time. And then, I would say too, like partner with finance throughout the process and ensure that there's transparency. I'm like really good friends with my finance partners, right? I meet with them bi-weekly just throughout the year, not even only for Breakthrough, but just making sure that we're on the same page, that we're tracking that their numbers match up to my numbers. It's a partnership for sure. And to your earlier point, like negotiation, right? You have to
Yep.
always really be watching your numbers and negotiating with your vendors. And, I say like this is a relationship industry, right? I'm not saying like beat your vendors over the head to get them down, ask, right? And there's trade-offs. I think this is a big thing for me too. Like I will go to executives all the time and say like we could do X or Y, but we can't do both, right? And so sometimes it comes down to tough decisions in order to stay within budget. So, after obsessively managing my breakthrough budget for months and months, I came in like over 10% under budget, which I was super happy about. But now I'm worried that finance is going to take money away for next year. So it's always like a little bit of a game, right? How close can you come to your budget so that you continue to get money year over year? But it's fun and it's super important. Again, like you want executive buy-in, like the CFO like knows that I'm obsessive about my budget, right? And so if he gives me a number, like I'm going to do everything in my power to stay to that number or below.
One of the themes that I hear just as we're kind of cooking through this, and I touched on it earlier, is your relationships in cross departments or, whatever you want to call them, with finance, with sales, with marketing, with people, because it takes a village to put on an event. It really does. I mean, even if you're a smaller company, to put on 100-person event, right? I mean, you all are executing 1,000-person event with a 3-person event department team, right? But you have all these other partners, and the importance of utilizing them, I know as a outside partner, exterior partner to people like yourself doing work, that we come up all the time where people like yourself are struggling internally with someone in some department, and the people who don't and have built these longer relationships, the way things flow is amazing. And it does help get things executed. So I just wanted to touch on that because I think it's something that you brought up a couple of times here that's really sharp, and it's a very high level thinking to be like, we have to have these relationships to do this the right way. Bethany, you were a panelist this year at SEMA, and it was the secrets to executive buy-in on your event strategy. And how do you try to get stakeholder buy-in? This is something that we've done an entire show about. This is stuff that I've tried to write about. This is fascinating to me because I do think it's like an undercover, kind of low-key, difficult thing for people to do. So tell us a little bit about SEMA, the panel you were on, and essentially your thoughts on it, please.
Yeah, I mean, I would say for any event marketers out there, if you haven't heard of SEMA, SEMA's an amazing event, really targeted for event marketers and like pretty high level attendees. So it was amazing. I was on a great panel with some amazing industry thought leaders, and we spent a lot of time talking about executive buy-in and how do you get the green light to your event strategies. And what I would say is it takes time, right? It takes time to build these relationships. I was at a company for 7 years heading up events, and I had an amazing relationship with my entire executive team. I started at 6 Sense and I was like, oh my God, I don't know anyone. Like, I don't know how to get anything done. They don't know me. They don't trust me, right? And so I think it takes time to build up trust. And a really good way to do this is to be transparent and communicate throughout the process. So if your reg numbers are low and you're worried about it, tell them, like, get on an exec call and have that conversation and try to leverage them to help, right? Can they go to their network and support? Can they send out LinkedIn messages to their network? We do that all the time. Like, we leverage our executives a lot for a lot of different things, and they're amazing, and they'll spend time because they're invested, because they know this is a huge spend for the company. So, I think buy-in and trust will come with time, but you have to prove yourself and you have to prove the ROI of your events and really the amazing impact they can have, like, overall on the business, and it will come.
Yeah, I've had so many different conversations on stakeholder buy-in, and it is important, right? Because one of the definitive things that I think I have learned over the last 12, 13 years is some companies treat events as a sales and marketing strategy, and some companies treat it as a cost of doing business. And that all starts at the top and how it works its way down. And I think the job of really good event marketers is, if your company treats it as a cost of doing business, I think it is your responsibility to try and flip that mindset. You have to try. You have to try to get the stakeholder buy-in. You try to have the conversations. Why are we here? What are the results? Oh, you can tell me all day what we're not getting. Okay, fine. Tell me what you would want. What would make it where you're glowing to me about this? And then there, those are your benchmarks. That's what you're trying to accomplish. Because it's easy for people to say this doesn't work, right? But if it did work, what does it look like to you? And I think it's challenging, but it's vital. And some of the best event marketers that I talk to have buy-in, and they continually have buy-in from stakeholders.
Yeah. And I will say 10 out of 12 of our executives attended Breakthrough this year. And that's
so
a
cool.
huge
That's
testament
great.
to like how much they believe in the event, like taking a week out of their time to go. And I think that helps, right? We as like event planners have this amazing opportunity to showcase what we do to the entire company and to our exec team. And for them to go on site and see our customers and our prospects, like, it's a huge, huge value driver for sure.
Bethany, I have about, I'd say 7 questions that I've not been able to get to here, and things that I want to kind of pull from and talk about, but we got 4 minutes left. I like to be mindful of the hour, because I think, kind of responsible to people to say, hey, give us an hour, give you as much value as we can and get out. What I really want to know from you is, because you're fresh off this event, which I think is really part of the reason why we wanted to have you on the show now, right? Is because you're fresh. It just happened, which is cool. So what are key lessons? Because you learn things when you execute something and you get done. So what are some key lessons that maybe you got just this year? Things that dawned on you, things that you want to do better, differently, or even things that you think you're doing really well. What are the lessons you currently have taken away?
Yeah, I mean, I think, and we've talked about some of these, and I mentioned this at the beginning, like, I think super important for those considering doing a user conference, like, you must have full commitment across the organization. Like, this is not something like for the faint of heart. This is not something a 3-person events team can put on and be successful if we're doing it alone, right? And so I think that's number one, cross-functional kind of commitment. Make sure you're securing budget and resources in advance, right? Like you need to make sure that you can pull this off. That's like whether it's internal, I mean, again, like MOPS is an amazing partner for us on our registration and our data, customer marketing, design, and vendors, right? You have to make sure you have the right vendors in place who can kind of execute and bring your vision to life. And I think you said it too, Matt. It takes a village. And third, I think give yourself more time than you think you need. Like I had a lot of events in the fall and I was like, oh, breakthrough, it's gonna be fine. This was a big event. It was a new property. And I think along with that came some challenges that I didn't really anticipate. Like they had a preferred tent vendor, but the tent vendor had never set up a tent on the property. And so there were permits, like there was all these things required that I just thought would be easy and they were not. So I think you can never start the planning process earlier enough. And I've just come off the event, like you said, and I'm going to Vegas in January and starting planning for next year. So give yourself more time than you think you need.
You guys are at the Fontainebleau next year, right?
We are. I'm super.
The new Fontainebleau.
Yeah, opening next week.
Very cool. Awesome. Bethany, I wish we had 2 hours, right? We may, if I can get you to commit to a part 2, I'm not going to do it now, but if I can get you to commit to a part 2,
I could keep going.
I know we could dive into some of this other stuff. First, I want to thank everybody who showed up, right? Great show. Good topic. Thanks for taking time out of your day. I hope, as always, that we're providing a ton of value to you in the event marketing space. Bethany, congrats on your event, right? Congrats on the success at the event. Thanks for doing this. And thanks for kind of breaking down all these different areas. It was really fun to hear about.
Yeah, thank you. This was awesome. And if anyone wants to connect with me, shoot me a note on LinkedIn. More than happy to continue the conversation. So, and it was a great time, Matt. I'll come back anytime.
Ish and or Cody will put your LinkedIn in the chat. And of course, Bethany Murphy, not too difficult to find on LinkedIn. I think you guys should be able to do it and reach out. Awesome. Thanks, everybody. Super appreciative. Thanks, Bethany, we'll talk to you soon. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.